So what we're going to do is we're here to expose it, let people tell their story, and let everybody in the public see the horrors of the court system in Suffolk County, New York.
Long Island Backstory. Long Island's news alternative to the Newsday Cablevision news monopoly. With Chief Correspondent Gary Jacobs.
Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, and welcome to Long Island Backstory, where we're filming at the Cablevision Studios in Hop Hog, New York. My guest today is Anthony Giordano, former baseball agent. He's got a lot of crazy stories, and I've known Tony for a while, and he's a successful person. He does insurance, financial advising, and really nobody cares about that. So we're going to talk about, when we go out, everybody asks him about his years as a baseball agent. So I'll give it a little bit of history. First of all, what does a baseball agent do?
What does a baseball agent do? Well, I equate it now to, everybody probably has seen the movie Jerry Maguire. I hope everybody has, and if you haven't, you should, because you'll get an idea of what an agent does. Essentially, what a baseball agent does is what any agent does. We represent our players in everything, every facet of their lives, actually, including their financial life, their professional baseball life, and a lot of times their personal life, too. More or less, let them just worry about being on the field, making a lot of money.
Does somebody need an
be
agent?
Successful. In this day and age, they do. Absolutely.
Legally, or it's the right thing to do?
Legally, no, it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
It'd be if I don't think there's any player in the big leagues or in any professional sport that's not represented.
Okay.
Because the contracts will become very, very, very complete. The front office has attorneys representing them in the negotiation process. So it's big money, and they have to know exactly what they're signing for.
Okay. So how long were you an agent for?
25 years.
That's a long time. So how did you get into this business? I'm sure people are watching it and they say, I love baseball, but maybe I'm not a good enough baseball player, so I'd like to get into being an agent. It sounds like a pretty good job. It sounds fun, make a lot of money, wear nice clothes, get to be with it. How do you get into becoming an agent?
How I got into it is purely unexpected. I didn't ever want to be an agent, didn't even know what an agent was. I was in the financial planning business. I met a baseball agent. He asked me to come and do some financial planning for some of his players. This was in the infancy of baseball management. This was like in the mid-'80s when agents were starting to become vogue. He asked me to take a look at some of the players. I started doing some financial planning, and ironically, I met John Franco, who had just come out of college, and I met his dad, and his dad asked me to represent him along with Alan Nero, who was the agent at the time. So I fell in, and the rest is history. And
did you love baseball growing up?
I did. I loved baseball. I enjoyed watching the game. I loved watching it. Once I became an agent, it became a little different. I didn't really focus on the game as much as on the players and how my players did in comparison to every other player. Actually, I really lost focus of baseball as the game itself, because it is a business for me.
So what were some of your experiences as an agent? I'm sure you heard some crazy stuff, and give me some of your experiences.
Well, one good experience, I brought the article, you can see here. John Franco, the first player I ever had, we signed an $8 million 2-year deal, which in those days, in 91 and 92, was probably the 4th highest baseball contract ever signed per year, $4 million. 24th highest contract ever in baseball. And that was $4 million a year for 2 years.
And you were representing him at this time?
Yeah, and that's what we did. And that was a big accomplishment in my career. Now, just fast forward now to 2016.
Well, is this what got you off the ground?
Yeah, it did.
You get a big case like that?
Oh, it was my first case, and we were excited about it. But if you fast forward to 2016, $4 million a year in baseball is poverty level for some players. It really is. If you sign a $4 million contract in Major League Baseball today, you're probably, as an agent, you're going to be fired.
Wow.
Because it would not be considered of value in the industry. The average contract today in Major League Baseball is probably about $7.5 to $8 million per year.
Any other experiences that you want to talk about that are memorable?
Oh God! In 25 years, there were so many memorable. Probably working when my player Alan Watson was signed by the Yankees in 1999, and I had the opportunity to watch him play in the World Series in 1999 and 2000. That was very memorable. I've had two players, Bronson Arroyo and AJ Przinsky, both make the All-Star team many years. So I had an opportunity to go to the All-Star game. So I saw these players from when they were in the minor leagues, get up to the big leagues, and then make the All-Star team. That was very memorable. I mean, I got it. It was, it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. 12 months out of the year.
So it's not as romantic as
it actually is not. We do so much for
but
these
you get
guys.
to see so many things. I mean, you get to travel and go out and party. You get to party with them.
You try to party with them, but they won't let you.
Oh, really?
No, they. There's a fine line between being an agent and being a player. And if you cross the line and suddenly you think you're a player, it's pretty much about the time you're going to get fired. Yeah. They look at you with respect. They want you there, but only to a certain degree. And I mean, many times I used to go down to spring training and see them and go out to dinner with them. But then when they would continue to go out, I'd go back to the hotel. When they came into New York to play the Mets or the Yankees, I'd see them at the hotel, have dinner with them, or go see them play, and then I would go back. But I got to go to their weddings. I got to go to their babies' christenings and their birthday parties, whatever. So it was you become very close because you're dealing with their contracts. You're also dealing with their families. You're dealing with perhaps if they want to buy a house, if they want to lease a car, if they
they're a life coach, really.
Yeah, you really do everything. When they're up, when they're down, you're the first one they're going to call.
Right. So tell me some of the clients that you had that people may know.
Well, John Franco, one. AJ Przinsky, who's still playing with the Braves, 38 years old, just signed a 2-year deal for $3 million, but he's 38 years old, so that's really that's positive. Bronson Arroyo, who has been playing and was just injured. Johnny, as you know, retired. A lot of local players. I had Billy Koch. I had John Habian. I had Alan Watson, who all made it to the big leagues, were up for 10 years.
Didn't you have some good Mets pitcher?
I did, Johnny Franco.
Okay. I thought there was somebody else.
One interesting thing was I found, people probably wouldn't know this, was that I represented Billy Koch, and he played for the Oakland A's. And at the same time was another player, Frank Menachino, who wasn't a good player, but he played that year. And what was famous about the Oakland A's that year was that was where the movie Moneyball was arisen. And Billy Beane, and if people have seen the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt, it's a story about the Oakland A's and their general manager, Billy Beane, and how he basically ran a team at a very, very low budget. Well, the year I was working with them, Billy Beane was the general manager. So it was interesting because they did see the movie, and a lot of the movie was fairly accurate to what went on in real world.
So how do you get the players? How do you get clients? Do you go scout? Do you go to high schools, and then you go to where do you find people? How do you get them?
When I first started, I had to just scour the newspapers and check and see if players were minor leaguers and where they were and if they lived in the local area. And I went and visited them at their house. Once I signed a few players, we were able to get referrals from those players. As we grew and as I expanded, I hired a guy named Mark Leiter, who's my scout. Now, his brother is well-known, Al Leiter, and Mark Leiter, and Kurt Leiter actually was the one who worked for me, and he was a former player, and I had him travel throughout the country meeting players and give me ideas of if we think these players are going to make it. It was kind of similar to buying penny stock. Mm-hmm. You invest in these players.
You said you invest. What are you investing though?
Well, you don't get paid anything.
Really?
Yeah, while you're representing them when they're in the minor leagues, in the first 3 years of the big leagues is really no.
So there is an investment.
It
is.
is.
You can waste a lot of time.
You can work 6 years for these players, and they never make it, or they do make it, and you sign a 1-year contract with you, and then they decide to leave when they're about to make the big money, which is a well-known fact. Uh-huh. That players will leave.
What, to go to a bigger agency?
Yeah, they'll be stolen. The other agents will come, and they'll basically, as a la Jerry Maguire, when he was leaving the company, he was trying to keep his players, and the company was trying to keep his players. So it's a 1-year deal with each player. You hope there's loyalty. You hope there's some type of friendship developed, but sometimes they leave.
So since when you started and now, like you said, it's got to change because there's so much money now.
Right.
Now you're talking big money, and I'm sure these agents are just got to be, they're huge companies now. Right. How has everything changed since you were an agent?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I decided in 2004 not to do it any longer, because I was really a small operation competing with large corporations. And it was either I join them or I move on.
Right.
And you just can't compete because now, you're right, the salaries are so large. Even the lower echelon players make a lot of
So I'm
money.
assuming back then they didn't care about the low guys.
Exactly.
We'll let the Tony Giordanos carry them, and we'll take the big money
Right.
and we'll steal them. But now everybody's big money.
Right, now everybody's big money. We had some players at middle level players making $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million. So they pretty much, we work with them. But now there's no longer 2 and 3. I mean, there are some, but most players are $7, $8 million, and comparable to the fees, which could be 3 to 5% of the contract. It's very large.
Right. So now what recommendations would you have for a young person who loves baseball but says, look, I'm not good enough to be a professional player, but I want to make my career, being in baseball, and being an agent seems like, that's the way to make money and
Right.
enjoy it. What advice do you have for them?
Well, everybody, I do still get a lot of people contacting me about wanting to do this. When I was an agent, nobody knew anything about it. Now colleges offer courses in sports management. My personal opinion is develop a specialty, either financial planning specialty, which I had, become an attorney, a legal background, and then go work for some of these larger companies and really do anything you can to work your way up the ladder, even if you have to be a clerk in the office, and work your way up and commit yourself to doing it. It's very difficult nowadays to just become an agent on your own because you have to be certified by the union, and it's not very easy to do that.
So there's nobody you can say, I'm going to get out of school and become an agent and hope I get somebody. That's
No,
not,
it possibly could, but it's very difficult.
Right. So what about the baseball strike? I know that was something, and we have a video clip
Yeah.
that will show where you were interviewed talking about the baseball strike.
It was.
So
It was in the strike was in 1994, and if
well, let's show the clip for a second,
okay,
and then
let's see
we'll
if we
talk,
have-
we'll talk
yeah,
about the strike.
The interview a little bit, sure.
Well, this baseball season may come to a screeching halt if players strike out, literally. That's because the Players Union is threatening to walk out in a labor dispute over money with the team's owners. Joining us now with the players' side, we have baseball agent Tony Giordano, who represents, among other Long Island products, Alan Watson and John Havian. Welcome to News 12. Thanks for joining us. How close is it from how close you are to the negotiations? How close are we to a strike?
Well,
Is it more than likely?
I'm not involved actually in the actual negotiations,
Right.
but in speaking to the players that I represent, if the owners continue to press for a salary cap, I truly believe there will be a strike.
So is that the main issue? The main issue is money?
Well, the main issue is money, but also the main issue is what the players already have to what the owners want to take back. What they've acquired over the years by working in the collective bargaining agreement, now suddenly the owners want to take these things back. And I think the players feel that, not only looking at themselves, but looking at the future and future players playing in the league, they don't want to give these things up. And they've worked very hard for them.
One of the main elements that's always helpful in a strike is to get loyalty from some side to help you end a strike. Of course, the baseball players have to be hoping that the fans understand and that the fans back them in their effort. But in reality, it's difficult to get fans to support players when we know many players are making millions and millions of dollars a year. So to many people, that already looks like enough money. To many players, to many fans, we see these days a lot of the troubles that sports stars in general are having because of course, they come out in the media. Are the players expecting to get the fan loyalty, to get the fans to support them in a strike if it happens?
Well, obviously they would like to have that support, and it's very important. I think you've got to look at it this way. You're here at Channel 12 News. You came here from whatever college or something. Let's assume, for example, you had no right to go anywhere else for the first few years of your career. You came to Channel 12 News. If you wanted to go somewhere else, you couldn't. And in addition to that, what you were earning here was sort of, Channel 12 had the right and the decision to pay you, and you had no right to go really up in salary unless they wanted you to, nor did you have a right to go to another affiliate, let's say, another station. And from a baseball player's standpoint, what they more or less have is, after several years, the right to go to another team, to sell their services, and to have an opportunity to play somewhere else. The players are very concerned about, I think, what the fans feel, very concerned. But they also have to consider themselves and their families for the future. You got to remember, it's a very short-lived career for a lot of players. One more thing is that no one really knows what the teams earn. Everybody sees what the players earn in public, but has anybody ever really seen what the teams have earned over the year, other than what we've heard from the teams saying what they've earned? So I think you've got to look at it from that standpoint. And yes, I think the high salaries do sometimes make the public realize, well, why, there's no sympathy for the players.
Right, they make so much money as it is.
I see the players when they're younger, when they're in the minor leagues. How many of them do have an opportunity to even get to the major leagues?
All right, some interesting points there from the players' side. Tony Giordano, sports agent, thank you so much for joining us
thank you
with the
very
players'
much.
side of this whole strike. And more negotiations today. We'll see what happens. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, okay. So, we just saw that clip. So tell us a little bit about the baseball strike.
Well, if you remember in 1994, there was a strike where the baseball season was pretty much canceled. And I remember it very, very clearly because the teams were trying to entice the players to cross the picket line and play. And it was a lot of pressure on some of these players to do that. And the union was standing fast that no one is to cross the picket line. No one. And if you did cross the picket line, you would be banned from the union for the rest of your career in baseball, which is difficult. And you'd also become a scab, and you'd probably be ostracized in the clubhouse. And I had several players at that time, which were middle-of-the-road kids that may never make it to the big leagues. So to them, crossing the line
this is their chance
was their chance
to get out there.
Right, but we were also told that if a player crossed the line and became they called them a scab, that we're not allowed to represent them.
Wow. So what did you do?
Well, it was either I let them cross, or I'm not going to be an agent any longer and lose all my players.
Right.
So I essentially said, look, you do what you want to do. But I understood, between now that it's 22 years later, I understood some of these players that would never make it should cross the line.
Right.
Because this is their opportunity. In fact, one of the players that crossed made it to the big leagues and stayed there for about 7 years.
And did he ever get in the union again?
He never got in the union.
Really?
He never got in the union.
Did he get paid well?
Well, he got paid well, but the point is he didn't get the benefits of being in the union. I'm sure a lot of players, despised him. But this was his chance. I was not allowed to represent him, nor did I want to after that, because I would have lost all my players. But it was a very trying time. First of all, the players didn't get paid, but they had a strike fund. So the players were getting money, but that didn't mean I got paid. So for a whole year, I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid. And I couldn't go on strike to get money. I remember that very, very well. News 12, and as you see in the interview, brought me in, and they were very interested. And I spoke many, many weeks on News 12 about the strike. The strike worked very well because eventually they were able to capitulate. The union came together with the owners, and they really signed a really good collective bargaining agreement, which propelled salaries to where they are today. And as far as I'm concerned, people come up to me and feel that baseball players make way too much money, way too much money. If you know what the teams make, you'll understand why the players should be making what they make. It's very, very, very simple. And I equate baseball players to entertainers. Nobody complains when a Tom Cruise makes $30 or $40 million for a movie, but everybody seems to complain if a baseball player makes $20 million a year. I feel it's the same thing. They're entertaining the public. They're playing in front of 50,000 people. People are buying tickets. They're coming to the game. They're entertaining. They're selling out all over the place. They should make as much as they want. And remember, it's a short-lived career.
Right. So what's it like negotiating with the teams? I mean, that's who you're dealing with, right?
The general managers.
The general managers. So what's it like dealing with them? Are they? I mean, you're the bad guy trying to get more money out of them, or are they trying to woo you because they want to get your player?
A little bit of both. A little bit of combination of both. First of all, I worked very closely with the Yankees for a long time. In fact, I know Brian Cashman very well, and he's still general manager, actually a really good guy. I think what happened was you have to be very, very strong about your player, and you got to go in there and stand strong, and you can't let them intimidate you at all. Because once they know you'll crack,
But sometimes you're wrong. I mean, you told a story about you were pushing for one of your pitchers.
Oh, that was an interesting
so,
story.
you know,
okay.
you were
that was all over the newspapers several years ago. That's a good story. I'm glad you brought it up. I forgot it.
It's my job.
That's good. I'm impressed. Mike Jerzenbeck was a Yankee pitcher in 1995, actually the top minor league pitcher in baseball and with the Yankees. And the Yankees were going to promote a pitcher. And Mike was surely going to be promoted. And I heard a rumor that they weren't considering promoting him as a starting pitcher. They were going to promote this pitcher who no one ever heard of. I didn't ever hear from him, by the name of Mariano Rivera. So they contacted me and they said, no, we're going to bring up Mariano Rivera. And I said, Mariano Rivera is not even a starting pitcher. He can't compete as a starting pitcher. Well, we want to give him a chance. So obviously they brought him up. He didn't really succeed as a starting pitcher, so they decided to make him a bullpen pitcher, and the rest is history. So I feel that I had a really strong influence in bringing Mariano Rivera up to the big league and telling the Yankees he's not a starting pitcher.
On the opposite side, but maybe
Right.
it's a good thing that you weren't representing him anymore.
What a great, right, but it was a great, Mike eventually did get brought up. He didn't do well. He lasted a year or two, and Rivera
But the
stayed
point
there.
is that you advocated for your
Exactly.
you advocated for your guy. You
Exactly.
thought he was the he was the right guy.
You advocate, you fight for the player, but you never, ever lie. Well, I wouldn't say lie, because sometimes you'll have a white lie, but you'll never be screw the general manager, because they'll remember it and they'll come back and get you down the road. I always felt you have to do everything above water, and it worked out. And sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't.
Right. In the last few minutes, everybody's
Sure.
watching, and they're going to say, "Well, tell us about all the women." Did these guys?
The women that I had.
Well, we don't want to talk about that. But
I didn't have any women, so
But the players, I mean, the women chase them. They wait for them in the bars after the thing. They wait for these guys to come out.
Yeah.
Is that true or no?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's true in any sport, even in any industry. I never saw it that much. I mean,
Do you think it's changed now that there's more money in it, though?
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm sure there were women out there that wanted to meet a baseball player, and I guess the word groupie is what we all hear.
So I think it's interesting. You're still protecting your players.
I didn't
to
really
this
see it.
day, Tony Giordano is still protecting.
Tony Giordano
Is
did
still
not
protecting
really,
his players.
Tony Giordano did not really see too much of the groupies. I mean,
But you did get to experience a lot of fun things going to.
I did.
games
I
and-
experienced a lot of fun. Met a lot of celebrities. Met a lot of people. I got to go to a lot of different events that the players went to. It was very exciting. I got to tell you. I mean, I do miss it sometimes. I say sometimes. And
But it had to be hard on your family life too.
it was. I was always on the road. Traveled all over the country. I had to bring my kids with me to spring training because I used to
I
spend
don't
a
think
month at
they
spring
bought.
training.
They must have liked that though.
Yeah, but the point is that I was living out of a suitcase a lot of times. You have to be committed to taking care of your player, or you're going to lose them. And but retrospectively, it was very rewarding. I made a lot of good friendships that will last forever, that I stay with. And I recommend anybody who wants to do it, give it a shot, men or women. I mean, there's women agents today, there's med agents today, and it's, I think, a very exciting field. It really was, and it gives you a different perspective on baseball.
Great. Well, Tony Giordano, thanks
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Pleasure to know you, and
Pleasure
you got
to
a
know
lot of
you.
interesting stories. And it sounds like something that you wouldn't trade for your
No.
life. You're glad that you did it.
It was fun. It was a
And,
great time.
And it was a good time.
Yep,
I'm Gary
thanks.
Jacobs, and thank you again for joining us here at Long Island Backstory. Please be sure to go to our Facebook page, like us, and if you like the story you just saw, please make sure to share it.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.